Hello and welcome. This is Michelle with PaperStampInk. Thanks so much for stopping by my channel today, where I love to share all things paper crafting. If that sounds like something you'd enjoy, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and ring the bell so you get notifications of future videos. Today I'm going to share with you the Scrappin' for Less May card kit. Let's encourage one another. It's got 4 different collections in there, and then I chose to get the banana split level for some extra goodies. Let's go ahead and get into those collections. I did speed up the video just to keep this from getting too lengthy because I'm also going to show you what I created with each of these collections at the end. I'm going to do 1 card for each kit and 1 for the banana split level. So for collection number 1, we have those the Love Big stamp set by Scrappin' for Less, some chalk heart stickers, the flowers were by Jolie's, and then we have the Love Big paper by Scrappin' for Less. And I love that we get double-sided paper with all of these collections, and you get 1 envelope with each one as well, but we're going to be able to make lots more cards with all the goodies that are in there. And of course you have the stamp set left over. Now for some reason when I was doing the video, I think I just loved the little lady stamp set and that collection, so I jumped to collection number 4 to share with you guys, but we'll go ahead and go with that. We've got the Little Lady stamp by Scrappin' for Less. We have a piece of red crochet thread, some enamel dots by Gina Marie Designs, the Scrappin' for Less die cuts, and these are just ready to put right on your cards for quick cards. You'll see me use those a little bit later. And then we have the paper that is the Little Lady paper by Scrappin' for Less. And I love all the reds and whites and blacks, and then a little bit of green thrown in there. That really bright green is so much fun. In our 1 envelope, and then we'll jump back to collection number 2, the Easy Peasy collection, and we have the stamp set, which is by Scrappin' for Less. We have those blue enamel dots by Gina Marie Designs. We have some yellow twine by Doris, and the Easy Peasy paper by Scrappin' for Less. I love that. This has like a distressed look on a lot of these papers. So gorgeous. I wish you could feel the texture of these too. They're really nice texture. Nice smooth texture on them. Then we'll jump to collection number 3 called Weather Together. We got this beautiful organza ribbon by Doris. Some more enamel dots by Gina Marie Designs. And then the stamp set is by Courtney Krieber. And the Weather Together paper is by Scrappin' for Less. All those really bright colors. These would be great for kids and for birthdays too, not just for using with the stamp set. So very versatile paper. And then if you get the banana split level, you get some extra goodies. So I got these sequins and some embossing powder that varies by kit. And then a die, you got this, that die's by Scrappin' for Less, and then Scrappin' for Less stencil with raindrops and clouds. And then you have your cardstock, and 2 of those are great for your bases, those white cards. So I thought with the collection number 1, with this Love Big stamp set, I thought it would be cute to have that little Bigfoot. It sounds odd, little Bigfoot, I guess, but he is kind of little. He's cute. In a pocket on a tag where we don't see him and he just kind of pops up, playing off of the sentiment that is seek and find, because everybody's always looking for him. So we're going to hide him away so you can seek for him and find him by pulling that tag up. So I went ahead and put that down on my panel and make sure that tag's going to fit in there nicely. And then I did do a little bit of surgery with my stamp. That's a great thing with the photopolymer stamps. You can kind of stretch them so that you can get your scissors in there, because you do want to make sure you're not cutting the actual sentiment. But I cut apart the words seek, the ampersand for and the find, because I wanted to be able to use those independently for this. And I did put a little strip of solid cardstock across the top of that pocket. Just make sure you don't put it over the edge of the pocket, because you're not going to have a pocket anymore if you glue that to the back panel. I'm using my embossing buddy to put some powder on. I was thinking I might emboss that tag, and he said not to later, but I'm going to go ahead and stamp that Seek down on some of the yellow cardstock that came in there. It's called Lemon Drop is the color. And I'm using some white embossing powder. I couldn't make up my mind. I was back and forth, but I decided yes to use the white embossing powder. And then I'm going to very awkwardly heat set this because my heat gun was plugged in over on the left, and I normally have it plugged in on the right, so I was trying to stretch it over, and so I'm doing this kind of backwards of how I normally hold things. So usually it's not that awkward. It's pretty easy. So cut that little strip down thinner, and then I'm going to put a pointer end on that. Just I thought that'd be fun, kind of like pointing towards something, although I guess it's not really pointing up towards where he's at, but a little arrow. And I'm going to just glue that flat onto the card base. And then we'll bring in some of those flowers, and I wanted to pick the ones that are actually in that background paper, so I'm kind of fussing around with which ones I want on there, and they're not behaving very well for me. Of course, I'm going to do them in threes. I like to do my things in odds. And I went ahead and did the stamping with Memento ink because I'm going to use markers. These are the Stampin' Blends to color in. And I'm using the Crumb Cake, the light and the dark on this. So I'm just giving a real quick, easy coloring. I'm not giving a whole lot of detail in there. And then I'm going to bring in some other colors for the little heart and the stem, and use the real red for the heart. I used the Granny Apple Green for the stem, and then I went ahead and put some down on the ground to kind of just ground him, give him a place to stand. And then I came in with my Dandelion Wishes to color in that flower. I used some ribbon from my stash to put in that tag, and then we're going to just slide him into the pocket, and so we can't see him, but we can see the top of that pocket. We're going to angle those ribbons off and slide that onto our solid panel, and then we're just going to do a little decorating on the inside here, and we've also almost got card number 1 done. So I wanted to just put those, I thought that little foot design was really cute, and I'm just going to use my Memento Black and go up the side of the inside panel. I just brought in a piece of scrap paper to cover the fold because I didn't want to go up on there with my stamping. So that's card number 1, the Love Big Collection. So let's go ahead and jump into card number 2. And here we have that just so you can see it in a little bit slow motion and take it in there. Card number 2 is the Easy Peasy, and I love this paper. I just think it's so dreamy. I'm usually drawn to really bright colors, but I really liked this one. That the colors were just, they were kind of faded, but still bright, if that makes sense. You could see that there was brightness in them. So I thought to add to that distressed look, it would be fun to tear down that edge. And I'm going to bring in some tumbled glass distress oxides just to pretty up that edge and give it some more distinct coloring. I've got my stamp image squeeze of the day. I thought that was cute. And I'm going to use Scattered Straw Distress Oxide again to stamp my sentiment. And then there were these little, like, almost like a little squirt of, you know, if you've ever got lemon juice squirting out when you've cut into it, that look. I thought that would be fun to add on there. So I used one of my stitched circle dies to cut that out. And then I'm bringing back in the Scattered Straw to just soften those edges a little bit of that sentiment. I felt like it was a little bit too harsh. And then we're going to bring in the foam tape and pop this sentiment up because, you know, it's not very often that you're going to see me do something without adding some kind of dimensional. So I had to get those in there. And then I'm going to bring in those beautiful blue enamel dots and very awkwardly trying to get these off of here. Could not get those picked up for the life of me on some of these. Found it was easier if I just held that in my hand later on, um, rather than trying to pick them up from the bottom. And I did put that little strip inside my card, and then I'm coming back in with that scattered straw and just putting the lemon wedges on the inside. That's card number 2 with the easy peasy set. So collection 3 is the Weather Together, and this has some great sentiments in it. This one says, let's weather together. I'm just taking some of those papers and using my corner chomper to round them off so they weren't quite as harsh. And I did use one of the sketches that's provided with the kit, and I will link below the Flavor of the Month card kit information, the sketches, and the ingredients. It's great that they give us these ideas for sketches. I didn't use them for all of the samples. I had some other ideas that I wanted to use, but I did use it for this one. I started to glue that panel down before I realized that yes, I wanted to put that ribbon around the back, and I like using my score tape to wrap the ribbon around to hold it in place instead of trying to use other adhesives. I just find that putting that over the top gives me a really good hold, and I never have to worry about my ribbons coming up. So I put that down onto the panel, and that background I used the Orange Fizz cardstock that came in the kit. And then we're going to use some more of the foam tape to pop up that patterned panel. And I did use the wild cherry to put a matting layer around that. Just with all of that brightness, it needed, or those patterns, it needed something to separate. So I did the stitch die circle again, and I popped part of it up on foam adhesive so that it was level with that panel, and then glued the other side. And then we're going to add our enamel dots on there. I did not choose to do anything on the inside on this one. So we are done with collection number 3, Weather Together. Now the Little Lady collection 4 has really cute stamp set, but I decided just to use the sentiment again on this and really have fun using these die cuts. So I took the red and black polka dot pattern and put that on there, and then that black and white piece, what I did is I just cut a panel that fit the same size as my card, and then I just put an angle on there, cut an angle across the card to get me that kind of wonky base there. Because I did have to cut this down slightly, I've got a little bit of edge there that we're going to just trim that off. And then instead of using part of the stamp set again, I just thought it would be really cute to use a lot of these ephemera pieces because, hey, they're quick, they're easy if you're looking for quick and easy cards. So I'm going to choose to pop that one piece up with the flowers, or the leaves behind, and then put the flowers on the card base itself, just to get a little bit of different levels there. And fussing with that because I didn't quite get it straight there. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to stamp out one of my sentiments. Every little thing will be all right. And punch that out with one of my circle punches and a layering punch out of the red, the wild cherry. And here's where I cut a little strip, and I meant to put that down before I adhered anything else, just to cover where those different patterns meet. I thought it would be good just to have a little bit of solid that was a distinction there. And so I'm going to just stick those down, and I was able to luckily tuck those underneath that ladybug hugs. Again, I'm going to put some foam tape on part of it and glue on the part that's going over the ladybug hugs piece so that it stays flat for me, and we'll trim off those edges. And there we have this card done. And so, oh, listen, you know, we got to add some enamel dots. If I've got those, I'm going to put them on. I love enamel dots. I'm a little obsessed with them. So yeah, we had to add a few on there, and crochet thread, and I'm like, I don't think I'm going to use that. So there's collection 4. So now I'm going to have some fun playing with the stencil and some of the distress oxides and doing some blendings. We're going to end up with a trifold card at the end, but right now let's just focus on doing these panels. So I'm bringing in some hickory smoke gray. I messed up on the first side, but hey, that's why we got two sides to paper, right? Just flip it over. And as I'm stenciling or putting this on, I'm moving that stencil from side to side just so I don't have all of those clouds lined up in exactly the same spot every time. I want to have some variation on there. So I'm going with kind of just a dark, stormy front. This is going to be a very different card front for me because I'm used to liking to put a lot of color and patterns on. So I'm stepping outside my box. I'm doing something different now. The inside's a whole other story. We're going to have all sorts of color in there. So I'm starting off with my picked raspberry oxides. And, you know, I am still fairly new to playing around with these distress oxides, but I am loving these. They just blend so smoothly. And what I am finding is, and the next color, Squeeze Lemonade there. That's what I'm trying to show you as that's flying a little fast probably for you to see that. But I'm finding the more you put down, the better these blend. And I'm trying to mix those two colors to get orange in the middle because I didn't have an orange in my oxides that was in this color palette or these tones. And so I'm just going back and forth between the picked raspberry and the squeezed lemonade, and where those overlap, I'm going to start getting that nice orange that you can see there. So just take your time and keep going back and forth, and that's the fun of working with these. And then we're going to move into the Twisted Citron, or that bright, vibrant green there. And the next color I'm going to bring out is going to be Peacock Feathers. I love this blue. It's just really bright, fun blue. A little bit maybe of a turquoise color. So I'm again going back and just blending those together so I don't have a real harsh line. And helps if I've got a little heavy with the blue there, you'll see at the top, and got a little bit more of a distinct line, but you keep going back and forth over them, but just make sure you don't push down too hard when you're first going in. You can start off your paper too, but just be a little soft until you start building those layers up. And I found that this is something I think I could have just fussed with probably pretty much all day long, and I eventually had to just say that I'm happy with that, but I was just having so much fun playing with those colors. So now I'm going to bring in that stencil with the raindrops, and I was a little lazy to get tape out, so I'm just holding that in place. Probably not the best idea because it can shift on you. Just be really careful. But I'm using my hickory smoke and just going over and laying down some of that gray to get some raindrops over that rainbow, because you know you can't have the rainbow without the rain, right? And there is our panel. I'm spritzing that with some water and picking up with a paper towel. Just this distress oxides will react with water, and you get a little bit of, you can see those white pieces, hopefully there, it's shown up on the video, where the color just kind of pulled up there. So I love that brightness of all of those colors of the rainbow. And so I'm just trimming this slightly because I'm going to mat it with a piece of black, and I'm going to do that with the front panel as well. I love using a black. It just gives a great pop for anything, whether it's a monochromatic card or a card with a lot of colors. If in doubt, put a thin mat of black, and this is like a 1/16 inch mat around there. So we're talking a really tiny bit that's showing out, but it does make a big difference. So these are just two standard card bases. One's going to go inside the other, but as you'll see, if you put those together, they're not going to quite meet up. So I'm going to shape just a little bit because we need one to be slightly smaller than the other so that we can fold that one panel inside and still be able to close the front. I'm going to come in and glue the back panel together. We'll flip that over, and now we have our trifold card. And I'm going to come in and put that cloud panel on the front. And I wasn't sure if I want to put that in the very middle or on the flap that folds in. I decided to put the rainbow on there, and then that middle piece can be where I have lots of room for writing a message to the recipient. And then we just need to get a sentiment on here. So I am using that Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink for my sentiment. It says, behind every cloud there's rainbow, and I'm just going to pop that out with a label punch. And I did do, the stress oxides will stay wet a little longer, so I did hit that with my heat gun before I started messing with this. And we're just going to put some of that hickory smoke along the outside I didn't want to do a matting, so I just thought that would help that to stand out from my background a little bit better. And we'll add our foam tape on the back if it doesn't get away from me there. And again, I'm leaving this front pretty simple, but I am going to bring in some sequins, and I'm specifically picking out some blues that I thought they would remind me more of raindrops, and I didn't want to get those, well, I wanted to get those bright colors on there, let's be honest, but I just didn't, I thought the blue was probably more appropriate for the outside of this card. So I stuck with those. I restrained myself from all the bright colors. So there's our last card, card number 5. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Leave me a comment below, and until we meet again, make sure that you grab your paper, stamp, and ink and do something creative.